the next claim is one that's made based on the photographic evidence. If you look at some of the photos that have come back, some of the widely distributed photos that came back from the Apollo 11 mission especially, but others, if you observe them closely, you can notice a slight discrepancy in the shadows. Some of them don't appear to all be or appear to be flowing in the right direction, which suggests, the conspiracy theorists say, alternate light sources. So what's the answer to this? Well, Mythbusters actually did a very interesting explanation of this, and what they did is they recreated a miniature of the lunar module and its landing ground, and they created as exactly as they could using materials closely related to moon dust as they could, and they were using just one light source, and they were able to show that with slight, and this had been done not only by Mythbusters but by many other people, and it shows that slight lumps and things on the ground on the lunar surface, certain sand dunes and well, moon dust dunes and various other things, tend to deflect the shadows in opposite directions, and we can see this on the beach sometimes. Sometimes shadows can be pointed in different directions or look as though they're in a different direction due to the size or the hill or dune or whatever. But another explanation for this that could be provided is there wasn't just one light source. The sun was a light source, but also the moon, the Earth was a particular light source, and the reflection of the equipment and the spacesuits would have been one also. So there's many different explanations for the discrepancies in the shadows on the lunar surface, but that doesn't really necessarily mean that those shadows mean they're from alternate light sources, perhaps studio lamps or whatever the conspiracy theorists may imagine. The framing of some of the photos that we've seen back from the Apollo space missions has brought into question not only what's in the photographs themselves, but the photographs and the framing of them. It's claimed by a lot of conspiracy theorists that with such thick gloves on, or the lack of mobility to control the cameras and such, explains away why there's such great pictures coming back from the moon. They claim that there would have to be an alternate, there would have to be someone else framing the photos, because there's no way the astronauts could have got such good qualities. And granted, the pictures are fantastic and they really are very inspirational. When you accept the validity of the moon landing, they really are so fantastic to gaze upon and see the advancement of mankind and what we can do. But there's again many explanations to all these claims, but this one particular, a simple one, is we only really see the good photos. There are many NASA photos where there's motion blur, distortion, the pictures didn't develop right. There aren't a huge amount of public domain pictures that we've got back from the Apollo space missions out there. There's quite a few, but not as many as people think, and that's because there was so much problems going on with the photography. It's a good chance they got the photographs, but the ones we see are the ones that were good enough to release into the public. There's no point giving the public bad-looking pictures of out-of-focus pictures, motion blur, problems in developing, all these sorts of things. There's no point offering the public that, as remember, it's the taxpayer that was paying for these missions, and they want something in return. And to see Buzz Aldrin and other astronauts saluting, holding the American flag or whatever, is not only great politically, as I said, but scientifically, and really was hoped that it would get the public very much excited about NASA and put their trust within the was going on at this time, and the best pictures and best footage that could be used would be exploited to the best potential. Okay, the last claim I'm going to look at is the one that's made that why was there no blast crater underneath the lunar module as it landed on the lunar surface. Now, there's again numerous explanations, but the one is really that it was found out that the moon is actually, there's only a few inches of lunar dust on the moon, and underneath it's just a solid solid crust really on the moon, and so it wouldn't, the blast crater, whatever thrust was being put out by the lunar module, which wasn't great because they would obviously want to slow the module down as it approached the ground. And due to the gravity and everything, it wasn't essential to have such such major thrust being projected onto the lunar surface, that it only blew away a few inches of dust, which was able to reveal the solid crust of the moon, of the lunar surface underneath the dust. But again, there are many explanations for this, but that's the one that is most accepted and most understood to be true. Now, we at scienceofreason.org are not the first person to be asked these claims. We're not the first to investigate it, and fingers crossed we won't be the last. It's unlikely we'll be the last. But why are we asked to investigate these claims? Well, it's all psychological. Conspiracy theorists fall in the same fringe groups as Holocaust deniers, creationists, other minority groups like this. Creationism and Holocaust denial are fighting for what they believe to be the facts. Conspiracy theorists are doing what they believe, are fighting for what they believe are the facts, but they also enjoy, and there's great psychological evidence to show this. They very much enjoy being part of a group, being part of a movement, and feeling they're the ones that have the answer, and it's up to them to try and help us, and we're not ready yet to receive this information. It's very religiously minded, really. It's kind of religions are falling all over today, so people need new things to believe in. And 9/11 truthers, the people who believe JFK assassination was a conspiracy, the moon hoaxers, people who believe there's aliens at Area 51, the flying saucer crash at Roswell. All these people like to feel that they're part of a group, and there's a lot of studies that have been done to show that conspiracy theorists may have had problems in their lives, and they've felt outcasted, and they've felt comfortable within a group. There's a thing called a confirmation bias, which is a psychological effect that you search for information that supports your claim without paying much attention to the to conflicting evidence. So objectivity is out the window. It's purely subjective evidence. Science doesn't work this way. Science couldn't work this way. Science is not democratic. It's not ideological. It's been used in those ways. But science as a whole is a way of finding the best possible and most probable outcome to explaining any natural phenomena. And that's how good science is done. And conspiracy theorists don't do this. Although their claims hold very little validity, if any, the evidence that we landed on the moon is far too overwhelming. For instance, the whole point, why would NASA and the government make such obvious mistakes that the conspiracy theorists point out? Why would they let shadows be elsewhere? Why would they have things written on the rocks? Why would they only release the best, good quality photographs and various other things? NASA isn't stupid, and the government isn't stupid. If they wanted to cover it up, they probably could. I'm not suggesting they couldn't, but it's unlikely they would have made those errors. And combined together with the lack of claims and the psychology of conspiracy theorists, I'm very certain that the moon landings happened, and it was a great scientific achievement, and hopefully one day these claims will be laid to rest in the kind of irrelevant, unnecessary pool of anti-science that they've made for themselves.